Colin Kaepernick, you should have never showed support for the Cuban government, for Fidel Castro, because now we have UFC fighters, actual Cubans, calling you out, calling you a coward, and telling you to learn your history before you speak up. And make sure you hit the like, share, subscribe button before we get into this video. And thank you to our sponsor, A-Game, the herbal male solution that promotes strength, energy, vitality, and libido.
This is A-Game, fast-acting, long-lasting, with no side effects.
Make sure you get into the description box and click on the link below to get 10% off your next order of A-Game. And there have been ongoing protests in Cuba due to the communist government, due to the oppressive government in Cuba. And we have people that live in America that have been taking this opportunity to disparage America while praising the actual oppressive Cuban government, praising the Cuban government for what it has done, or blaming America for what's currently happening in Cuba right now, which is the Cuban citizens rebelling against the Cuban government. And it's crazy that we have celebrities like Colin Kaepernick, athletes like him, trying to criticize America while simultaneously praising Cuba. And he's done this in the past. And now it's coming back to bite him in the ass, because now you're looking pretty silly, because you have actual UFC fighters calling you out, saying that you don't know what you're talking about. I'm an actual Cuban citizen. My family's from Cuba. And you're over here praising Cuba's educational system, all this other stuff, but you won't go live in Cuba. Like many of the other people that have been taking this opportunity to disparage the United States and somehow suggest that the Cuban government is better than America, which is crazy. And it really shows how spoiled a lot of Americans are. The fact that they can say things like this and never even set foot in a country like Cuba is amazing. The fact that they can take for granted the amount of freedom that we still have even to this day in America in comparison to a country such as Cuba, a communist dictatorship. And we have political commentators in America blaming America for what is currently happening in Cuba today, blaming the US embargo on Cuba, saying that we are responsible for what's currently happening in Cuba right now, the resource shortages, the food shortages, the medicine shortages. It's America's fault, but it's not primarily the fault of the Cuban government. They're actually defending the communist government of Cuba over the United States. And the ironic thing is, the Cuban citizens are not defending their own government over the United States. In fact, the Cuban citizens are still trying to flee to America. This is why last week Joe Biden administration put out a statement saying, do not flee here. Do not flee your oppressive Cuban government and come here. Because they were already anticipating a large influx of Cuban refugees trying to flee from their own oppressive government to America. So you look crazy as hell trying to say that, oh, it's America's fault what's currently happening in Cuba. Well, how come the Cuban citizens are running to America then? Why is that? And why do we have Cuban Americans, Cubans that live in America, praising America, much more so over Cuba? People that have actually lived in Cuba. And you don't have to take my word for it. We can let the UFC fighter Jorge Masvidal, the one that called out Colin Kaepernick and told him to learn his history, we can go ahead and take a listen to what he has to say about his own family's experience with Cuba, dealing with the communist Cuban government.
My name is Jorge Masvidal. and I'm just trying to keep up my fans or anybody that would know me, use my platforms to do what I feel is correct, and what I feel everybody should be doing is fighting against oppression, dictatorships, communism, and anything off that nature. My father escaped Cuba when he was 14 years old, and I've only heard the horror stories since I could process thoughts of how shitty this communist regime killing machine is. So I just I want to shed some light on Cuba. Big SOS signal for them. This oppression has been going on for 61 years. This is not just because of the pandemic, or it's not just because they just ran out of medicine, because they've been out of medicine, they've been out of resources and food, because of the corrupt government, the extreme corruption over there, where only a few at the top eat and everybody else just has to suffer. Those days have to come to an end. So I think it's time for the whole world to rally behind Cuba. Let's go. Spread the messages online. We gotta protest, we gotta get together, we gotta get attention. Maybe the media channels, the local media channels in America won't cover this, or in other parts of the world, but I think it's up to us to put the word out there. It's the people against these corrupt governments. Let's defeat these fucking evil communist motherfuckers, man. God bless everybody watching, and thank you.
But I want to get into the details of what exactly Jorge had to say to Colin Kaepernick about this situation. So Jorge said, "Know your history, coward." UFC star calls out Colin Kaepernick for support of Fidel Castro. Yes, that's good old Colin Kaepernick. Instead of just doing his job, he's out here supporting communist regimes. UFC welterweight star Jorge Masvidal may have lost his last fight in the octagon, but the fighting spirit is alive and well. On Friday, Masvidal called former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick a coward over Kaepernick's wearing of a Fidel Castro t-shirt in 2016. Know your history and facts. Cowards like this fool should be sent to live in Cuba. See what they say after a day there. Yeah, they really should. They really should. People that speak on how other governments treat their citizens, yet they don't live in the actual country. Yeah, I mean, the person that has actually lived in those countries, they have much more credibility than someone like Colin Kaepernick. He's throwing his support behind really the far left. He's supporting communism. In 2016, Kaepernick wore a t-shirt depicting a meeting between Malcolm X and Castro. The phrase, "like minds think alike," was under pictures of the two. At the time, a Miami Herald reporter asked Kaepernick about the t-shirt during a conference call before the San Francisco 49ers game against the Miami Dolphins. When asked about the shirt, Kaepernick praised Castro's education system. One thing that Fidel Castro did do is they have the highest literacy rate because they invest more in their education system than they do in their prison system. After the game against the Dolphins, Kaepernick seemed to walk back his statements, but the damage was done. What I said was, I agree in the investment in education. I also agree with the investment of free universal health care. Kaepernick told reporters, trying to push the narrative that I was supportive of the oppressive things he did is not true. Big government leads to a very powerful government that can exert its power, abuse its power over its citizens. That's why people on the right tend to speak out against having big government, a powerful government that can be overbearing on its own citizens, which is what's happening in Cuba right now, which is why the Cuban citizens are rebelling against their own government. That communist government that is giving them that free universal health care, hey, they're also oppressing the hell out of them, according to the citizens themselves. Masvidal's post comes as massive protests have erupted in Cuba as citizens demand an end to the communist dictatorship that controls the country. In a country known for its repressive crackdowns on dissent, the rallies were widely viewed as astonishing. The New York Times reported activists and analysts called it the first time that so many people have openly protested against the communist government since the so-called Malcanazo uprising, which exploded in the summer of 1994 into a huge wave of Cubans leaving the country by sea. So hey, when a actual Cuban citizen, when a man whose family actually fled the oppressive Cuban government, you really can't challenge what he's saying because he's speaking from first-hand, second-hand experience, unlike Colin Kaepernick and many other people that have been praising how awesome a communist regime is. But I'm curious what you guys think. Make sure you hit the like, share, subscribe button, and blessings to you.